Programming scope is defined as the area of the program where an item, be it variable, constant, or a function that has an identifier name, is recognized. In Rust, variables have a scope, which is the place in the code that you are allowed to use them. The scope of a variable begins where it is created and extends to the end of the block. Along the way, it is accessible from nested blocks. A block is a collection of statements inside curly braces. That includes function bodies. In this example, variable oranges is defined in the main functions block. Then we create a nested block. Inside the nested block, we create a variable apples, and then we print both variable oranges and apples, which works just fine because oranges is accessible from nested blocks. Then the block ends, and the variable apples is immediately dropped at this point. There is no garbage collector. Values are always immediately dropped when they go out of scope, which means the last print macro won't work. Here our friendly compiler rescue us. We will discover this at compile time. The error message is pretty clear. Cannot find value apples in this scope. So, we would either need to move the second print line macro up into the same scope as apples, or move apples down to the same scope as the second print line macro. Variables can also be shadowed. Another way to think about shadowing is the variables are always local to their scope. Here we create a variable oranges and initialize it to 5 in the outer block. Then in the inner block oranges is shadowed with a new value of 9. These two oranges are different variables with different values. They just overlap in scope. The first print line macro will see oranges as 9. Note that the value of the first orange is not accessible from the inner block after it is shadowed. But as soon as the inner block ends, the inner orange's values is dropped, and the outer orange's value is once again accessible. So the last print macro sees the value 5. You can even shadow a variable to a different type in the same scope, which can be used in data transformation pipelines that discard intermediate representations. Here oranges are initialized as integer value of 5. In the next statement, variable oranges initialized as string value, fruit. In the next video we will talk about memory safety in Rust.